My test, my test, my test. We gotta get bigger. All right, I've been eyeing this game for quite some time. And y'all can see my reaction to it when I first reacted to the very first trailer for this. Or was it the second trailer for it? I'm excited for it. We love a black woman being in games more and being more prominent. Love that. This is Weaving Hazel's Journey, South of Midnight document. I wanted to look at this for some time, but I didn't get a chance to. But it's the perfect time in this Black history. A lot of stuff to come. So this is one of the many things I'm gonna be looking at for South of Midnight. We are heavily invested, and I need it. Terabon, if you ever see this, or the creators of South of Midnight, and if y'all want to send me an Xbox so I can do this, because it's Xbox exclusive, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. May contain content inappropriate for children. Okay. So it's not going to be a kiddie-friendly game, which I kind of already figured, which is definitely of my interest. That is not.
In many ways, Midnight is about bringing people together, and magic is all around you. It's about learning empathy for people who aren't like you. It's finding hidden strengths.
It's
already
so
starting off with
beautifully
gems.
powerful, and I think that it just sort of leaps off the screen.
There's so much atmospheric potential. The landscapes, they're almost like a character in and of.
I actually want to touch on that. Go back to what he said. Go back to what he said. And that's so freaking important.
Magic is all around you. It's about learning empathy for people who aren't like you. It's finding hidden.
Learning empathy for people who aren't like you. That is so valuable. And they start right off that in the beginning, 16 seconds in, not even a whole minute. This game's already a W.
Strengths.
It's so beautifully powerful, and I think that it just sort of leaps off the screen.
Is that the
There's
facial
so much
model? For
atmospheric potential. The
main
landscapes,
character?
they're almost like a character in and of itself.
We made these concept songs
cute.
for all of the creatures. It's not often you get that creative license.
Her journey paralleled with my journey, and like many
She
of
looks
our
familiar. I've
journeys,
seen her before.
she discovers
seen it before.
the world is more than what she has known it to be.
Coming up against all of these monsters and large creatures. where
This
she
looks
can
really
communicate with them,
good.
heal them.
Ain't no
learn
reason for
from
another
them.
Jane.
Watching Hazel just fly through the world doing all of these things is just
This
a lot
looks
of fun.
good. Hazel looks good. Weaving Hazel's Journey. South of Midnight document. I should have got some snacks. this is a nice
So when I was
vibe
a
to
kid, I
this.
spent a lot of my free time after I had exhausted all the books I wanted to read, exploring sort of all of these abandoned
David Sears is the
farms
creative director.
and forgotten places. And you really, when you walk through a forest in the South, you never know what you're gonna find.
Now, as a kid, I would already be, I would already be at the backside of this little swamp.
Finding plants like wild grapevines that were so thick and so gigantic, you didn't have to climb them. Mysterious buildings, and they seem to have never served any purpose at all. So you wonder, what was this for? Why is this here? Where did these people who built it go? What happened? It doesn't take too long before the accumulation of mysteries demand an answer, and my imagination provided the answers. So I started inventing adventure stories as I was tramping around and exploring these
there's a book,
places
South of Midnight?
that usually featured monsters, and monsters became my best friends. That
Oh, this
exhilarating
atmosphere.
sense of discovery, never knowing what you'll find. This sort of thing is what I wanted to create in a game. The genesis of Midnight was my desire to create a love letter to the South.
Ooh, he's spitting. This mouth spitting.
We are based in Montreal,
Canada.
which is in Quebec in Canada, and
Compulsion
is pretty
Games.
far from the South. We were lucky to have some team members who grew up in the South. none of us were experts in Southern folklore.
Okay, Lux, and she
But
rocking the
we
Steel
had
series.
this monumental task of building a world that was iconic, did feel authentically Southern. And it was with a bunch of creatures that no one in Montreal had ever heard of. I mean, there are lots of people in the South who haven't heard of some of these cryptids.
He sounds so genuine.
We reached
what he's
out
saying.
to
North Carolina.
Donna
Oh
Washington,
snap!
who is a world-renowned
What?
storyteller. And she came to our offices
This game,
and
Compulsion.
she told
Send that
a
stuff.
story to
Stay in South Carolina.
the entire company at the time. And it was captivating. It was mesmerizing.
So I spent, I don't even remember what it
Yeah,
was,
Lock
2 or 3
Nation,
days, telling
Donna
stories
Washington,
and taking questions
storyteller.
and just sort of immersing the team in folklore. The stories that come out of the Southern, well, Gothic stories is kind of what you're dealing with in South of Midnight, are all stories about surviving in difficult times. They're about facing the things that scare you. They're about tricking the things that scare you. They're about laughing at the things that scare you. But what was interesting with that team was as they got into the stories and they sort of joined us, it became clear, it became more obvious to them what the stories were about.
We liked the idea of not just the South, but this Southern Gothic slant towards the
Whitney
Deep
Clayton,
South.
the art
The
director.
stories are usually set in a small town. They usually involve something supernatural, and they're usually soaked in atmosphere.
That place seems weirdly.
There's a thing that I
familiar.
like to think about called like an imaginary nostalgia for a place. So the idea is that, you know, it's okay if players have not experienced like where these genres came from originally, but we're sort of reimagining them and celebrating them again to create like a really cohesive atmospheric world. And so for us, how I would have translated that to something visual is really leaning on the weight of the past. That's a big thing for Southern Gothic. Old decaying buildings, overgrowth, quiet places, old houses, places that tell a lot of old stories. And then there's the supernatural sort of magic realism element with ghosts and myths and legends.
I'm not gonna lie, if I'm not saying
A
nothing,
lot
because
of
I am
creatures
immersed in this
in
documentary.
these folklore, they
Hopefully
sort of
you all too.
balance on the edge between the known and the unknown.
This
Almost
is
all of
woven
the
really nicely.
creatures within South of Midnight
And the music, I
are
hope some of this is actually in the
inspired
game.
by folk tales from the various regions of the South. And if not a folk tale, it's taken from an urban legend that's well on its way to becoming a folk tale. Something's out there, clearly, something anomalous. People become obsessed with learning about them. But to date, no one's really gathered any conclusive evidence or proof that they exist, or really identified what they are.
The creatures are all inspired by real
That
folk
spider
tales.
creature.
However, there's
Wonder if
not a
you're gonna
lot
go
of
against that.
visual information on the exact look of these creatures, which gave us a lot of flexibility to interpret them. For me, getting the
That
tone,
artwork
mood, and
is
getting
sick.
making sure they had this sort of dark elegance to them was really important.
Ooh, any bit of
So while you'll see paint everywhere,
crispy.
every region has a distinctive creature, and they rule entirely. So each kingdom is structured so that you understand how did a creature become a monster.
The sort of variety of creatures that we have in South of Midnight is really cool. The creatures and just sort of like the wild embodiment of like
Danny DeBell, the
nature,
narrative
but
designer.
also human anxiety is very interesting. But also like human errors and challenges and the ways that we hurt each other sort of manifest as creatures as well. There's some
Right.
sort of whispered rumors about creatures that you shouldn't cross.
Too tall,
that
tall.
Hazel has to.
Each creature that Hazel meets throughout her journey
Farah
is going to have a
Dowd,
specific
associative
impact on
narrative
her.
director.
Some will be forcing her to face things that she has run away from. Others will simply create a huge
Ooh, the
sense
camera
of fear
tilt
in her
angles.
and summon
Ugh.
her to dig deeper and to believe in herself.
Now, ultimately, Hazel wants to assist creatures, but there are some that are not really alive. They are from a darker place, driven by trauma. They want to feed on guilt and fear. And these creatures she has to destroy. But the creatures with human souls, she wants to help.
Look how that felt like you walking
Magical
in a
realism
home.
is part of the vision for South of Midnight. Magic is real, monsters are real, the unexpected can happen at any time. But the farther you go from the town center or the urban center, the more magical the world becomes. And it becomes a driving force, because once you start to notice even minor details that are out of place or unusual, you want more. And that's the way we built Midnight. For someone who, you know, is a practitioner of a fundamental magical form, Hazel, your character, I think she likes it too.
You know how much exploring I'm gonna do in this?
I think if you're making a game set in real locations, you have to go to those locations as much as possible.
Agree.
To sort of,
and this is just me speaking
pick
as a
up
player.
on the vibe of these places. So in that
I like
spirit, I devised 2 week-long excursion / research trips to the South for all of the directors.
Because South of Midnight is set in a sort of twisted alternate version of the Deep South, where we use different landscapes that are iconic to the Deep South. So we went to the Appalachians, we went to the swamps, we went to New Orleans, we went through the Delta, and South of Midnight has a bunch of archetypal locations from the Deep South. Hazel Flood, our main protagonist, she gets projected into this sort of folkloric version of the Deep South. We have the swamps, we have the Delta, we have the Appalachians, and we have an area that's inspired by New Orleans. The landscapes they're almost like a character in and of itself in the game.
You start this one. Louisiana. My bad, y'all, for me on
people who
it. This is kind of late.
From the plantation would go live in the swamps of like the Carolinas. People in like Florida and other places, they would go to the swamps because very few people are going to follow you into a swamp, and they made life work there, and I think that's really, really cool.
A lot of people might hear about the Underground Railroad, but you know, a lot of people don't know that the Great Dismal Swamp was like a stop on the way. Imagining people build settlements out here is like
really wild.
Really, really wild. It's very inspirational though.
It is, because this is not a place I feel like you live willingly, like you're doing it out of necessity. You got a big old mosquito on your head.
Did you get it?
I did.
So it actually is really nice to normalize this setting.
And even as a game setting, this isn't a usual setting.
I mean, it's a little daunting trying to bring that history to the forefront. You feel like a great degree of responsibility.
Yeah.
I like to make worlds that people might be familiar with in some way or another, but they might not realize they are, and twist them and sort of celebrate them. And I feel like we don't give players enough credit for wanting to see new worlds.
So as we're going through each of these locations, we're going to be introduced to a new creature, a new person. We get a really interesting look into what's happened to them and what we can do to possibly help them. So that mood is then going to expand out into the environment. So we have a central theme. How can we reflect that in the environment? Is it going to be dark and gloomy? Is it scary? If so, it's going to affect the time of day. If it's something a bit more cheery, you know, we can have that happening in the morning. The artists on our team have done such an incredible job really fleshing it out and making sure that the biome they're given really feels like that biome. And I would encourage people who are playing the game or watching gameplay to just look around and see what type of vegetation is there, what's on the ground, what materials, you know, are you walking over. Just look at the animals. Like, there's so many little
I don't know if I want to have stop motion on or off though.
I wanted to try and ground
I'm leaning towards keeping it on
in the Deep South by establishing
Fox,
very authentic soundscapes. And we did that by employing Andy Martin to go actually into the swamps of Louisiana and record over the course of 6 months, I believe, at different times of year, to capture the sounds of the South and the swamps. And we also worked with Thomas Rex Beverly to get sounds of the Kentucky mountains and Tennessee landscapes and soundscapes.
Look, where'd they go? Here, sheath. Because this game is so very specific, you know, Hazel being from the Southeast, Hazel being an athlete, you know, being a track star. And I wanted the intricacies of those things to really pop out in Hazel.
Performance and voice director.
It's the type
Wait,
of
she's a track
subtlety
star?
that really
Nah,
brings
hold
a
up.
character to life.
I was telling myself I'm not going back on nothing, but he's just...
Of those things to really, you know, Hazel being from the Southeast, Hazel being an athlete, you know, being a track star. I wanted the intricacies of those things to really pop out in Hazel. And it's the type of subtlety that really brings a character to life.
We ran track and cross country. This is for me. I said I wanted
Cool as rock. Both Adrian and Nona, who play Hazel, have strong ties to the Southeast.
Cool, so this first line, we're just gonna do 3 in a row, and this is you walking up to Bo's house.
You had to grow up too fast.
Nice. When I first seen a picture of Hazel,
Adrian
I was like,
Ray,
oh my gosh.
Voice and mocap actress.
That could really be me. Just her facial structure resembled mine, so what I did is I dressed exactly like Hazel in my audition, and I had fun with it. I'll clean it up.
Jeez, your great-grandmother made this.
And you never told me that. And I would say that some of the details that I really hone in on is the accent. Oh my God. Who would do that to a kid? My family's from North Carolina. So
that sounds like my cousin.
I had a background of what that accent would sound like, and then I had a little bit of training to help me with just to really precisely place it where it needed to be. And then with her attitude, I just got to make sure I am in a spunky, ready pace. You know, she has sassiness, she has a modernness to her, but she's also respectful of her elders. She's also very empathetic. She's very driven, competitive. And I remember just feeling so connected. Her journey paralleled with my journey and like many of our journeys.
This story centers around a young Black girl, so I couldn't help but be just in love with that idea. And I think Hazel in the writing and the way that she's designed, it's so beautifully powerful. And I think that it just sort of leaps off the screen. And the way that she speaks and carries herself, the way that she allows herself to be vulnerable and scared and confused and unprepared, I think is something I'm really excited that we get to follow in this story and her story.
Shaking bones.
The handcrafted style is applied into everything. There's something soulful about that, and I think it resonates with a lot of people, and it felt really appropriate for this deep South, Southern Gothic dark fantasy to have this sort of organic, natural touch to the style.
Who what?
Yeah, I saw you jumping.
We had to figure out a style where things are exaggerated. There's little thumbprints and imperfections, and everything kind of has this sort of twisted feeling to it. So we went and visited this stop-motion studio in Montreal called Clyde Henry, and they have a really special style that has this sort of dark, twisted eeriness that was something we wanted for South of Midnight, and we actually looked at their maquettes and looked at how they were made, and then the artists went back and we had to create techniques to reverse engineer how things are actually made by hand. Yeah, everything from the foliage to the props to the buildings to the characters, they all have a handcrafted look to them.
Maybe I could help bottle up the paint.
So I'm the last person left here.
So the animation style is just stop motion. So a lot of the narrative of the game is that you have Hazel, who is, you know, while searching for her mother, coming across a number of people in the world who have gone through things. They have experiences. Everyone's got something that's made them a little rough. And, you know, while she has the power to weave and heal these sort of things, there becomes a sort of understanding of people's imperfections, those experiences that they've had.
sort of define who they are as a character. It's nighttime, you can leave, but they're starting to go banging on door to door to each house. And so the stop motion treatment gives us the opportunity to bring in those little moments of friction, of imperfection, individuality. You feel it in the animation, you feel it in the motion, you feel it in performances, and that matches what you feel in the narrative and the relationships you have with characters. One take. Yeah.
Hazel is coming into her power. She's a young woman who, through this adventure, finds the true nature in herself as a leader. She finds her magical powers.
She's awakening to a world of possibilities she did not know existed. So the main character that you control, Hazel, is a weaver. She's inseparable from her weaver abilities. All of them are calculated to make you more aware or continuously aware of how the weaver sees the world and how she can pull from the world to traverse in extreme ways that normal humans simply can't do. The most important metaphor about your abilities as a player is the perception of trauma in creatures. You can see it. It's like a cancer.
So the ability to weave is you can take these big masses of dark energy and release it from each other, release it so the good can get in, so the good can thrive. And that's what I love about Hazel Flood is the things that she's doing are all a part of healing and helping others.
It's inspired by textiles and crochet and knitting, and we wanted to sort of take back this, which is traditionally considered more of a feminine art, and make it this powerful, beautiful magic. And we wanted it to really feel like this is how she does magic, is by manipulating these tangible strands. And the look of them was very much inspired by lace. Lace is very Southern Gothic. It's this like supernatural, living, sort of sentient material.
I was looking really for a strong blend of diegetic music, using instruments and musical styles that are common to the various regions of the game that we were inspired by from the real South.
I remember David coming back from a trip to the South, and he had this epiphany. He told me that he wanted the action to equal musicality. Right. And I was very intrigued with this creative direction. I was like, okay, how do we do that? After knowing we needed action equals musicality, we thought of Olivier de Rivière, because he, not only is he a great composer, he's also an amazing interactive music specialist.
Various friends.
We wanted the music to be very much involved into the world in itself and illustrate the world as much as capturing what the player is doing moment to moment. It goes like ba, 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 bang, bang, bang. But the more we're talking, the more I understood why they reached out. They didn't ask me to be like, okay, do a perfect blues, do a perfect, like bluegrass music, do a perfect country music. It was quite the opposite. It was more like, okay, take the flavor of this, but make it your own. Take it to another land. There was something from the South, which is songwriting.
And so we, as Compulsion, our writing team, and David, supplied those lyrics for these songs.
Molly, Molly, woman in white, she'll snatch you up if you go out at night.
Nah, he got that.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing, because I would think that somebody with such a backstory in his voice should be older.
It's something that's sort of in your soul, I guess, from the time you're born. I always said I'm kind of a, 25-year-old man in a 60-year-old body,
It was important that it feel real. It's performed by people from the regions where the music is played or where the music originated.
Tonight.
Yeah, going to Nashville was something. It's alive. It's just music all over the place.
Walking up and down the main stretch, I think it's called Broadway, hearing all the music coming out, like seeing these performers, being able to go to the RCA studio and meet our performers, it's just historic, and I think influences how you make the game. And we wanted to work with these artists from the South, singers from the South, fiddle players, drummers, organ players. David was from a gospel church in Nashville, and the chords and play style is just incredible. Meeting the choir, and everyone's just got music running through their blood. It's amazing to be around, and often left me feeling quite inadequate.
Feel good about this? All right, let's try that.
Last night under...
You're singing as the character. So you need to wear this sort of, persona that is not you, and you need to perform as this persona. So it's always magical when it happens, because the first takes, it's like a little bit, timid, a little bit like we don't know. And then I start to push and push and push and push.
Stacy Sub-Zero. That's a fire name, by the way. Stacy Sub-Zero? That is a fire name. Ooh. And that voice is cold.
The audio design is sort of interactive. The more you embrace being a weaver, the more of the music of the universe you hear during gameplay. And we wanted the universe to literally talk to the player. And we used children's choir voices.
The descriptions is captivating.
The idea was like, as you go through the level, you will unveil the backstory of each creature. And as you do this, you will as well unveil the song, but not in the way that is the final shape, but rather in an unsettling, sometimes disturbing way. There is this entity that is very evil, and we said, this is completely out of the scope of, let's say, guitars, banjo, all of this. This is like massive, and it can take over, yourself. So we were like, we need something that is completely different and something that is impressive. And that's why we picked up an orchestra for those moments.
London in the United Kingdom. Abbey Road Studios in London.
The process of us recording with everyone together is fairly rare, in fact, very rare. It puts a little bit more onus on the performance and making sure that the balance, the blend, all those musical details are really finessed.
That was why we thought that was so interesting. Like the orchestral textures which felt out of place in the Deep South. By cleaning those zones of those entities, you removed the out of place, the orchestral textures, and replaced those with voices and with grounded instrumentation and the ambience that returned.
Because it's more like he's putting me down. I guess he has me at the waist.
She's like, she's like this. So she just exaggerated more.
Let's do one more.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Good look. Knees up. Collapse. Struggle, struggle.
Not yet.
The challenge is really the fact that a character like Hazel in a game like this hasn't really been done before, and it hasn't been done in a way that really brings to light what it is like to be a young Black woman in this time period with these challenges and the complexities that come with that.
I mean, when I think about how many games are set in the South with a strong Black female lead, I don't recall that many. That in itself shows how important this is.
I think it's really cool that a little Black girl could cosplay Hazel with the hair that's growing out of her head. It's nice to see yourself reflected in a piece of media and not in a way that feels stereotypical or inauthentic.
Like Hazel, we can be weavers, we can be fairies, we can be magic users. We can do a lot more than just, I think, what people assign to the South.
We hope that one day you'll be able to play a character like that. But it's really important that Hazel's story is relatable to a lot of different people. Like, I think you don't have to also be like a Black woman to understand and relate to Hazel.
Right. You know, she's battle ready, but then she's also, you know, opening up to her inner child. And then it gets really dangerous at other times. She's kind of doing a little bit of it all. I think it shows how expansive this world is.
That sequence had
whether
me
these
tripping
people
right
are
there.
humans or they're a giant necrotic alligator, all of these creatures are worth helping, and helping in the way they want.
Beautiful. Well done. I think that's just a really strong message that there is a power in healing. You know, we can actually heal through our pain.
And it's a journey of finding empathy for those who seem like they shouldn't receive any at all. I think that's really important. I think that's something that makes this game so important and so unique.
Very, very.
I'm gonna be sad to leave the world of Midnight. Having family that lives in the Deep South, there's just so much there from a cultural standpoint that just has endless depth and interest. This game has allowed us to really dive into that.
I just want it to be something different. I want people to dive in and be like, I had never played anything like that before, or this was a totally new environment or very weird setting. I think people are going to go into this and walk away seeing a lot of characters and locations they're not familiar with. I think it is unique and different.
In the end, I'm even surprised by the final music. I think everybody will be surprised. That's why it's a very big pleasure and a privilege to work on production like this, because art prevails.
Art does prevail.
I think that it's important to show the folklore, the magic, and the creatures in the South and share them with the whole world.
The music presentation during this whole thing was elegant. Coming 2025 this year. Only on Xbox and Steam. Clap that up. Dang. Oh my. Yeah, let's talk just a little bit. First, comment your thoughts. I'll give you a few seconds. Go ahead, I'll wait. You can tell by how everyone's talking and how everyone was conversing that the passion was there the entire process. The fact that they go into real world places, using real world sounds, taking literally real world inspiration, events, emotions, and how it can portray in a negative light and a positive light to people. And even in aspects that's not even physically tangible. I feel like this is going to be an amazing game. Especially, and I'm not even trying to be biased because I'm from the South. You literally can see that behind everybody that was working on this. The actors, the directors, the music, Compulsion Games. I have faith in y'all for that. I really do. I had faith in y'all before. I knew this game was gonna be good, but seeing this, I know for a fact I'm not gonna be disappointed in it. Not in the slightest. Almost can't even describe all of it with words. I'm just have to let the universe talk to you, just like they said. I think I'm gonna really enjoy playing as Hazel. So if anybody want to lend me their Xbox, just let me borrow it just for South of Midnight. you want to send me an Xbox. That's the main reason, I'm not gonna lie, that I ought to get an Xbox. Literally, like, that is the main thing that's making me want to play something on Xbox, because of South of Midnight. Literally, I could tell I was into it by just the first few reactions I did to the South of Midnight. I really want to play this. So again, Compulsion or Xbox, Sarah Bond, or anybody that work on Xbox, if you want to see me play South of Midnight, I'll do a full Let's Play. A full Let's Play. On my heart, I'll do a full Let's Play. And you will not be disappointed about it. You will be entertained. You will be entertained. Do a full thing on the channel. I have faith that that's going to be a great game. I hope it wins some awards this year, because it definitely deserves it. People poured their heart into it. Knowing all of this is very fruitful. That they put in work, but they put work in outside of work too. And a lot of people has a lot of, how they described it, a lot of people have a lot of relational value to this. The people that's actually been working on it, which is definitely makes the game way better. If the developers are happy making it, the players are gonna have a fantastic experience. It feels like a dream project, high key. And the fact that the developer or the director was literally the first person on there, usually, I don't really recall usually them being on documentaries like that or heavily involved like that. I could be mistaken. He sounded like he was really involved. Everybody sounded like they was really involved. That's all I have to say for you guys. If y'all want to see this, or if y'all want to, donate a Xbox or something, and South of Midnight, I'm here for it. Comment it and I'll DM you details or send you an email, and we can work things out. So I'm so serious. Don't ask why so serious. I am serious. Yes. Let's get this video out there. Level me up with the like button so we can reach more people with this, because I really hope this game is seen and it blows up and thrives in the best way as possible. It doesn't deserve all the haters getting, all the unnecessary. I don't deserve none of that. This game's gonna be fire, and mark my words on that. Y'all seen how accurate I was with the Game Awards for last year, right? I missed some, yes, but a lot of them I got right. And you know what? To make that even more, because I was mostly following intuition, was that I didn't even play most of the game. I wanted to play them. I didn't get the time to it because recording it is my main goal for them. But all of that was based on perception and intuition with it. And I got a lot of those things right. But 100%, and I was like 80 to 90% sure about a lot of those. But with this, I'm 100% sure this is gonna, just like this other game that's also has another black woman as a lead that's coming out either later this year or 2026. It's called Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. I have a serene vibe that it's gonna blow our minds. When I watched the trailer, that's what I got from it. And that's getting a lot of hate too. People gonna be eating their words. People gonna be eating their hate. They're gonna feel what they put out. But I'll see y'all next. Y'all take care.